wanted to go ahead and talk to you this morning about housing code violations and real estate investing and how to pursue this unknown niche or it's almost like a secret niche, not necessarily talked about. And so housing code violations or property violations are violations against a property that could have overgrown grass, which is an example of one violation. Another violation could be the windows have been boarded up a little bit too long. Another violation could be like in California, when I lived in California, we actually got a violation at our house where code enforcement came along and said that we could not park on our grass and slapped us with a violation. If you have a car in the driveway and obviously it's leaking, it's considered an eyesore and that type of thing. Code violation drives by, bam, they slap that particular property, that parcel of property with a code violation. Code violations can stem from a couple of $100. It can stem from $100,000. I've heard of code violations against properties that are in HOAs where the grass has grown a little bit too high. And what they'll do is they will slap a code violation against a house. Yes. There's all types of code violations, guys. Let's say a property got caught in a fire and the portion where the garage is still burnt, and it has all types of board and stuff around it, and so that would be a code violation. And actually, code violations in other areas are worse than in other areas. And so these code violations could be typically found. You can go to your housing department, or you can go to code enforcement in your local city. So type in whatever your city and state is, type in code enforcement. Give them a call. Matter of fact, if you live in the state or the city where these code violations are existing and you're doing this locally, take the time to go down and develop a relationship with these code enforcement officers. That's a hint. They can be phenomenal lead sources. So let's assume right now that you've gotten a list of, 3,000 properties in your area that are all stemming from code violations, all from current day to, let's say, 5 years back. Okay. And some of these code violations, they look attractive on paper, meaning, give you an example of an attractive code violation. Let's say, for instance, you found a property in a particular area, and that area, the houses go for $300,000. Let's say the code violation against one of the properties there is a fallen tree in the front yard. Okay? And that tree has been there and it's fallen. That tree has been there and it's fallen for, let's say that tree has been there for 6 months, just falling down on the ground, and code violation finally goes ahead and gets a whiff of it, and they slap a code violation against the property. So let's also assume that property is vacant. Okay. So you have a tree that's been down for 6 months and the property is vacant. Let's also assume that property has come up on the code violation list twice. So you have a vacant property with a tree in the front yard. It's been there 6 months. And that same property has come up. In other words, it has 2 code violations against it. Or what the city has done is number one, they've come and slapped a code violation against the property. They've slapped another code violation against the property saying, hey, look, you know what? You need to go ahead and remove this tree or else. So you as an investor look at that as, wow, that's somebody who really doesn't want that property. What do? When you find properties like this, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and look up the information on a website like agentpro247.com, and you want to see what's owed against the property. Just because a property looks like it's a slam dunk deal, you want to make sure that there's some equity there, because I think I'm speaking to people that want to go ahead and wholesale these deals. That would be an example of a code violation. Okay. So let's go back a little bit. Let's assume you have a list of 3,000 code violations. What you want to target is this. You want to target, I would say, vacant properties, okay, that have multiple code violations. You want to put those as priority. Why do I say that? You got vacant properties. A vacant property, as we all know, is a liability. And somebody owns those properties. And so somebody is either paying a mortgage on the property, or that property is an expense in some way, shape, or form. They're paying property taxes. They're paying something against that property. Okay. Number one. Number two, the multiple code violations, you want to really pay attention to that. Okay. Because that is saying that I don't have the money to take care of this particular issue, and they're kind of waving their hands saying, I need help or I need out. You want to target those people ASAP. Those are primary on your list. Vacant properties, multiple code violations. From there, second portion you want to go ahead and target is the vacant properties. One code violation, target the 1 year violations. Okay, the first year. Don't necessarily target 5 years back or the 4 years back, not yet, because you don't know how many people have touched them. Touched them meaning how many people have mailed to them or contacted those individuals. You just don't know. You know what I mean? Code violations can be a very attractive niche, but you have to know what you're doing, number one. Number two, you want to have the budget for that. Okay. So just because you have a list of 3,000 does not mean you're going to mail 3,000 people. A lot of those people that have code violations against them, they're not deals. Okay. They look good. They smell good, but they may not be good, depending upon how much they owe against the property. And so you almost have to be not just an investor, but an investigator as well. In mailing these code violations, you can profit extremely. You can do extremely well, but you got to know what it is you're doing. Okay. Number three, after you target the vacants for 1 year, then you can go ahead and go back 2 years, 3 years. If you got a huge vacant list, stick with that and continue to mail and market those individuals. You can either go ahead and send a postcard or a yellow letter. If you don't know what a yellow letter is, you can go ahead and Google yellow letter on YouTube. A postcard, I'm going to link a description at the bottom. Along with that, I'm going to link up some videos and a couple of websites that you all can follow. Okay. That will give you some information on how to proceed with code violations. Below this, I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to do a full transcript, but I'm going to go ahead and give a slight explanation of this video as well. Okay. Number one. Number two, after this, I'm going to, because I'm getting a lot of calls about the code violations and the delinquent taxes and that type of thing, the niches that you can go ahead and market. I'm going to break down equity exactly what is equity. And then I'm going to break down value, because not a lot of people, and I didn't realize this because I assume that investors just know, not a lot of investors understand value, and not a lot of investors understand what equity is. These two things will save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and they'll help you out, okay? This is Gerald. Have a good one.